Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Kim is actually on a plane or off the plane now and on her way in. So we're going to get started. You know, live radio doesn't stop for traffic. So speaking of radio, you can find us currently on 8 stations around the country, as well as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and of course, everything is always on broadscast.com. In addition, you could also follow us on Facebook, Twitter at Broadscast Show, and Instagram. So let's get started. Today's April 15th, 2016. You know, a lot of people know this day as Tax Day. Did you file your taxes yet? I actually I actually got my refund this year. Normally we are those extension people waiting in line for ever and ever and ever, but not this year. So hopefully you guys have made that all happen and aren't scrambling too much and in line at the post office. So head over to our Facebook page also and tell us what you're going to spend that refund on. Anybody going to travel or do some home improvements? What's going on with that? So, but in addition to April 15th being tax day, to Bostonians and those who love them, today is also known as One Boston Day. It's a day that honors and celebrates the resiliency, generosity, and strength demonstrated by the people of Boston and those around the world in response to the tragedy of April 15th, 2013. And many of you have, you know, obviously remember the Boston Marathon bombing just 3 years ago today. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. I remember that day vividly, being from Boston myself. You know, Patriots Day and the day of the Boston Marathon was just such, you know, it's funny, when I moved to California, I was, where's Patriots Day? Where's this? You know, it doesn't exist, of course. It didn't even occur to me. But it was just such an amazing day to have off from work, and oftentimes it was beautiful out, and just spending time with friends and celebrating the marathon and going into town, and just really, it was just such a cultural experience that it was just, I felt so fortunate to be a part of. And 3 years ago today, that all changed when 2 bombs went off at the marathon finish line, and one of the victims, his name's Marc. He actually is a distant relative. He's my brother-in-law's nephew, and he was one of the victims who lost a leg, had over 90% burns over 90% of his body, dozens of surgeries and procedures, and it still continues. You know, I think that a lot of people hear about some of these experiences or these tragedies, and then, you know, once the news stops covering it, they think, oh, everybody's just doing better. And it's difficult. I mean, he's got hearing loss. He's got, you know, his poor 5-year-old son 3 years ago, you know, he was 5 at the time, had to go through this, and his wife, Jen, and it's just amazing. I follow and recommend you follow his Marc Fucarell Road to Recovery on Facebook. But the reason I bring him up specifically is this year, Marc's returning to the site of the marathon, this time as a participant, which is unbelievably amazing. He's riding a hand cycle in support of 3 charities, the Achilles Freedom Team, America's Fund, and the Semper Fi Fund. And the Semper Fi Fund, which provides support for injured military members, actually purchased the $7,000 hand cycle he'll be using this coming Monday, even though he's not a military veteran. And it's been amazing to watch all these organizations, usually that are only affiliated with veterans, you know, reaching out to some of these victims, not only of this tragedy, but others, because I think there's a sense of community and camaraderie when somebody else who's been through something you have, you know, understands that. And nobody knows that better than Jamie Marseille, who also, she is a double amputee who lost her legs to frostbite at age 19 after being stranded in a car for 11 days following a snowstorm. She is a mentor to Boston Marathon bombing victim Celeste Corcoran and her daughter Sydney. And she actually will be on the show today and will be in Boston on Monday running the marathon in support of her friend and other victims. So that's just amazing. It's just, we all go through struggles and we all have these experiences that could bring us down. And, Kim could speak to that. But to be able to, dust yourself off and find purpose with what you've been through and to give back to other people, it's just amazing. And I'm really excited to talk to Jamie in a little bit. And also later on in the show, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk parenting with BuzzFeed senior editor Morgan Shanahan, who's a professional blogger and screenwriter living in LA. So she'll fill us in on what the latest trends are happening on BuzzFeed and what all the broads are talking about over there. So I'm looking forward to getting to that, and Kim should be here any second, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Broadscast.
Hi, this is the monkey. My parents run the best social media company around. Go to starksocial.com today.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. They're huge in anywhere other than somewhere that you've been before.
All right, welcome back to Broadscast. If you're just joining us, it's Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Hello. And we are being joined in this next segment by someone who I'm exhausted reading about all of her accomplishments already. Jamie Marcet, not only are you just a kindergarten teacher, I was going to say not only you are a double amputee, first woman to complete a marathon, you're a kindergarten teacher on top of it. So the fact that you can keep it all together and wrangle all those little kids is incredible. But joining us now is Jamie Marcet. Welcome,
Good
Jamie.
morning.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good. So we are bringing you on because we are just so inspired by your story, but I don't want to ruin it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to be?
Well, basically, it's kind of a crazy story when you look back on it and you think it's something from reality TV, and it isn't. So sometimes when I verbalize it, I can't help but snicker because I lived through it. But when you really talk about it, it is pretty triumphant. I was a college student in Arizona. I was 19 years old and went on a ski trip that people go on trips all the time. And upon returning from the ski trip, my girlfriend and I got lost. And we wound up getting stuck in our car in northern Arizona in the White Mountains. And we lived in our car for 11 days.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, it sounds like something that you can't even believe happened. And
Yeah, or a Lifetime movie. So how did you survive in your car for 11 days?
Well, usually one of the first questions I get is, well, why didn't you use your cell phone to get out? And again, a snicker probably comes along from me because 28 years ago, nobody had a cell phone.
Right.
And if you did, it was as big as a computer, and you never got a signal anyway.
Right. We were still using Morse code then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, growing up, I was never an outdoors person. Skiing was one of my fun extracurricular activities, but didn't go camping or anything along those lines. And, being forced to activate my own knowledge and strength of how to survive is what got us through those 11 days. And we didn't have any food with us. We ate that first day. And the storm that we lived through was horrendous for the first 4 days. And finally, on the morning of December 27th, when we woke up, the storm had stopped. And we said, we better get out of here. And we tried to walk out of the car, and we got maybe, 100 feet, give or take, and my girlfriend Lisa collapsed in the snow.
Oh, my gosh.
And she actually was. Yeah, it was quite terrifying. And we decided at that point to go back to the car because we were almost dehydrated. We hadn't eaten. And that was one of the first decisions that saved our life. And at that point, that's when we said, well, let's eat snow. I mean, snow's a solid. It turns into a liquid. It's water.
Right.
And so that was another decision that we did quite early on that saved our life again.
Wow.
Wow. And so ultimately you were rescued and had frostbite or so badly on your legs that they had to do a double amputation?
Correct. Eventually we were found on January 2nd, 1988. We were rescued. And by that time, the frostbite was pretty severe on all my extremities. So I had frostbite in my hands, my ears, my nose, and my feet. And we were taken to a small local hospital, and then eventually later on that evening, air-evac helicoptered down to the Phoenix metropolitan area. And right away they started talking about amputation.
Oh my
my parents, because they knew how bad it was. And then they did something called a hyperbaric chamber treatment. And that's basically where you lay in, it almost looks like a coffin with a top glass seal. And you lay in there, and you could have headphones and listen to music and watch TV. But I really laid in there about 3 hours a day during 1 hour, 3 times a day sessions. And what it is pure oxygen being pumped into your body.
Wow.
To try to rejuvenate your legs? Or your extremities?
So everything else was rejuvenated but my feet. So everything came back but my feet. My feet actually got really sick and contracted a disease called gangrene. Mm-hmm. And at that point, that's when we decided to amputate because it was making the rest of my body sick. And that was really dangerous. So at 19 years old, it was my choice. I had to sign the paperwork, and I'll never forget how. Yeah, it was pretty intense, but I wanted to get out of the hospital. I wanted to go on with my life after having that 10 days of hell in that car.
Right.
Right. And it wasn't like you were, like you were saying, you weren't all that big outdoors woman, and you weren't even a runner at that point, correct?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, you hit it right on the head. Something I embarrassingly admit, growing up, I did not place a high value on exercise.
Oh my God, girl, I get winded walking up the stairs. So you're talking to, yeah, we're good here.
Right?
So what suddenly, I mean, after all that time, like what inspired you to begin running?
Well, right away they told me I needed to go to the gym. You know, and I, of course, thought being that guy who spells his name with a J, and they explained to me, no, there's another place that you go. and I loved it. You know, immediately I started seeing muscles, and I really liked strengthening my body, especially being challenged with my prosthetics. But I never thought about running until I had moved to California and was working with a new prosthetist, and he showed me video of the 1996 Paralympics that were held here in our country in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when I saw those amputees running on these crazy, still bionic woman, I mean, I was speechless. And again, I had been pretty active, but never thought about running, and pretty much that's what started it all.
Wow.
And I got my first pair of running legs in
that's
spring of 1997, and I've never looked back.
That's got to be a process in itself. It's not like you go down to Sports Chalet to get yourself some legs for running. I mean, like, you know, was that grueling as far as like getting fitted and
learning how to function and
learning how to walk again?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I was really fortunate because they did something called an immediate fit. So when I woke up from my amputation, there were feet poking out under my covers at me.
Oh,
so I was able to start therapy quite quickly. And then I also did pool therapy. So for the first almost 3 years, I kept a wheelchair around, and I used a walker also. But what I would do is I kept a walker about a good 6 to 8 months. But in the beginning, I would go into a pool, and I wouldn't need my walker. Mm-hmm. Because the buoyancy and the balance from the water, I would just walk back and forth.
Right.
And I really believe that's what strengthened my gait and my confidence. And but when I first learned to run, it was totally different. I mean, I'd been an amputee at that point for, I think, about 9 years, and I fell down a lot. It was quite challenging, but I never gave up. I loved the sense of freedom, independence, confidence that learning to run has given me as a young woman with prosthetic legs.
So This week, all across America, it's National Crime Victims' Rights Week. And one of the themes for this week, or the theme, is building trust and restoring hope. And so one of the things that I loved when I was reading your story is what you're doing for survivors of the Boston Marathon bombing tragedy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So through my relationship with the Challenge Athletes Foundation, they have a couple wonderful programs, and one in particular is called Project Next. And they have asked me to be a mentor to other women who have lost their limbs. And I've mentored women in the San Diego area and the Los Angeles area, but 3 years ago, I developed a very special friendship with a lady named Celeste Corcoran, and she actually lost both her legs in the tragedy in Boston. Mm-hmm. And we've become very close. Ironically, her name is Sydney, and Sydney was there at the bombing, and she actually had her femoral artery cut, and she's had quite a lot of struggles since the tragedy. But we tend to joke around because my daughter's name is Sydney, and just these strange connections that you could have never imagined. And so Celeste and I have this beautiful friendship, and I've learned so much from her. Mm-hmm. And she's actually turned into a mentor for me and become a cheerleader for me. But something that I never had when I first lost my leg is, like you said, building that trust and that creating that hope for others. Right. I have a beautiful sense of community with my family and my friends. But when I first started running and I met other amputee women, even though they were from across the country, it really gave you a sense of empowerment that I can go back to my community and it is okay to be different. Mm-hmm. And by me wanting to run the Boston Marathon, there's quite a few reasons. I love to challenge my body, but even bigger than that is to provide hope and opportunity for women all across the world, with or without legs, that we all suffer tragedy in our life. And it's how we handle it. It's how we find that strength from within to pursue a journey with a purpose. And I know I was saved on that mountain 28 years ago because of what I'm doing today. What I do in the classroom with my students, what I do with my family, my own personal children, and what I do with my amputee life. Because, yeah, I struggle. I mean, I was just getting my running legs worked on Sunday. That was 72 hours, and I'm leaving to run the Boston Marathon. And it's very challenging. And like you said, I don't walk into a shoe store, but I also know, because of my muscle memory and the strength, that I'm going to finish that race. And it might take me a little bit longer. It might be a little more challenging because of some of my prosthetic issues, but I'm never going to give up because it's so important to pay it forward with my actions. And, something I like to focus on is pain is temporary, but quitting is forever.
Oh, it's so true. And, there are going to be a lot of the marathon is this coming Monday, Patriots Day in Massachusetts. I grew up in Massachusetts, so that's always been an extremely special holiday there and a big day to be in the city. And there will be a lot of the victims who are back there. And what kind of message, what would you tell people who feel like, Kim and I talk to a lot of people who have a lot of excuses, sometimes myself included, or, I don't want to speak for my co-host here, but, why we can't do things. And so if your running is so inspiring because you've got plenty of reason to not do it. So if you could tell not just amputees, but other people, if you could give them one message, what would it be?
I think one of the biggest answers is turn those voices off in your head. We all have them, and we all struggle with our own insecurities and about wanting to do something different or really wanting to make that change. I mean, consistency is comfortable, and people are scared of change. But my goodness, when you challenge your body and you change things in your life, it feels so incredible. I mean, life is a tough journey, but we all have that passion and that drive from within, and it's what you do with it when you wake up each and every day. And I know for me, the older I've gotten, some of those voices are pretty strong, and I do tend to fight with them in some of my physical journeys in regards to my prosthetics. But I know that I have dedicated myself, and I've worked really hard. Like you said in talking about the question is, dedication, perseverance, and resiliency are one of the most important factors in any journey of life, whether it's your career, your health path, or even just raising your children.
Yeah. Well,
you're a true inspiration, Jamie.
Absolutely. And we will be cheering you on from the television on Monday. Congratulations and good luck. And, we're in awe.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. Yes, nice to meet you, Kim and Jackson. You guys have a great afternoon.
You
Thanks.
too.
Safe
Thank
travels.
you.
Okay, take
Jamie Marseille. Check her out Monday running the Boston Marathon. And
Oh,
for more
gosh.
on Jamie, go to our website, broadscast.com, and you can find all the ways to follow her story. She's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be right back. Why should you become a Broadscast sponsor? Broad multimedia exposure, including radio, web, iTunes, YouTube, and social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
A quick, easy way to reach your target demo, women. Exclusive, limited time only, affordable introductory rates.
Plus, 20 years experience in on-air and online marketing. We produce your one-of-a-kind creative in-house, saving you time and money.
For more on becoming a Broadscast sponsor, visit broadscast.com today.
Welcome back to Broadscast. That was Jamie Marseille running the Boston Marathon on Monday in support of all the Boston Marathon bombing victims. So, one of the benefits of going live is that you can be extremely flexible. But one of the craziness is, things move around. They're constantly moving. So our next guest is going to be moving a little bit later on in the show. We got a little surprise for you. But we are coming right up with Morgan Shanahan of BuzzFeed. So stay with us.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Two broads with faces made for radio.
Our next guest, you may know her from the818.com. She is a blogger, digital guru, and senior editor at BuzzFeed. Morgan Shanahan, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I don't know how long you've been over there at BuzzFeed, but things are just growing and growing over there. Like I see your videos
Yeah.
all the time. Like you may recognize, I love all the parenting videos you do.
Thank you so much.
And you may recognize her from 8 Shameless Lies All Parents Tell Their Kids, or different types of moms you meet.
Only 8?
But I think it's one of my favorite, the latest, is the 19 struggles only hot mess moms will recognize.
Yes, the full hot mess, full-blown hot mess video, right?
So I think that there are a few. What kind of reaction are you getting to that video?
Oh my God! So with so much, a couple of things. So I'm gonna, but 2 years is the craziest place I've ever worked. It's like being on a rocket ship. Like things just happen there. So in February we got together and we said, let's start doing some parenting video content. And we did a video called Different Types of Moms. And at the end of that video, a character, hot mess mom, comes running in.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a mom, I could not have predicted the reaction. I would define myself as a hot mess, no question. But I would not have expected that so many other women felt so connected to that identity. The reaction to the first video was massive. It got like 36 million views in a day.
Wow. In a day?
That's crazy. In a day. And then like over 200,000 shares on Facebook, which is, that's a metric that we look at because Facebook video it autoplays.
Right.
So like we really care about who's sharing it, So that was a wild thing to see. And then we did this video last week, which was sort of our follow-up to see, can we give the people what they want a little bit with this hot mess mom? And again, we got like 14 or 15 million views in a day. People share it like crazy. And it's just, I can't stop like thinking about it and talking about it with my other mom friends. Like every mother on earth feels like they don't have this together. And the people, it's just like, it's like the Sex and the City effect in the comment section of these videos. So you see people who are saying like, oh, you're the tiger mom. Oh, you're the free-range mom. Oh, you're the PTA mom. But everybody is saying, I'm the hot mess mom. Nobody is assigning themselves another ID besides that hot mess ID. So it just fascinates me. It's crazy. Are you a hot mess, Jackie?
Oh, I'm more like a lukewarm mess. I mean, I always think
I'm hot. I'm steaming hot mess. But I'm still so surprised that all these women who I would look at and think like, oh, she's got her together.
yeah.
We're sharing it, going, oh, this is so me. I'm a hot mess.
Yeah, I think that there are days where I feel like a hot mess. I mean, Kim and I talk about this too. Like, we come into the studio every Friday and, I mean, I admit my hair is wet right now.
I have no makeup on. My hair's in a ponytail. Wet.
I mean, we're here though. I mean,
the first thing I said to you this morning, like, I haven't showered yet today. So, like, we're all right there. I think that is like a natural part of motherhood, but I think it comes from, we're all sort of putting other people before ourselves and trying to take care of our families first.
But why? But the connotation hot mess sounds so negative, and I look at it as I am kicking butt. I showed up, I was where I'm supposed to be, and this is me and my natural habitat. Yeah. Like, and
on
so.
the right day, right? I mean, so today was my daughter's picture day, and we sent her to school with unbrushed hair. So I got a text from my husband as soon as she was dropped off, being like, well, I went off at school with the messiest hair in the world, and it's picture day. I want to die. And I was like, oh, he's a hot mess, too. We're all hot messes, right? Because, like, we're working so hard, but we're getting it done the best way we can. And I totally think of hot messes like, I'm going to own this. Like, you know what? They have combs at school. She'll be fine.
Oh my gosh, those little black! Remember those ones that you'd play with the teeth on?
Yeah. And then she can put it in her pocket after and walk around with her comb in her pocket, like we did.
Right?
We did.
It's like a greaser. She's going to be like a total greaser.
But it's funny though when you think about like the guys who either come home and they're stay-at-home dads or they go off to work. Do you think they're like talking to other guys like, oh, I'm a mess? Like I think the guys just kind of think that they're doing it right no matter what.
Right. I don't think the guys feel like they're a mess. Because you know why? The guys are under no obligation to look good while doing it. Is that a thing to say? It's true.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to bleep the heck out of you for the show, too.
Oops. Sorry, I'm potty mouth. Oh, my God, I work at BuzzFeed. I mean, there's no censorship. That's
all right. So are we. We just, sadly, we air on radio and, they have rules.
Totally understand. Tone it down.
No problem. So what do you think is so relatable though? I mean, like what are some of the examples of the hot mess mom that you think women are resonating with or is resonating with women the most?
I mean, I think it's that it's exactly what you said. We're getting it all done. I think that it's become this like empowering title. We're taking back hot mess, right? You used to be like, oh, a hot mess is like someone who can't get their together and they're all over the place and they're never on time. But those of us who are moms and dads, we're hot messes for a reason. We're hot messes because we got a lot of stuff going on in our lives, right? I work full time. I have a kid. I have hobbies. I have a husband. I have friends. I have other things that I'm doing. And sometimes I do wipe my armpits with baby wipes. What are you going to do? It's quicker than taking a shower. I did it this morning so that I could do this interview with you.
Well, I think that's what makes the videos that you do on BuzzFeed so entertaining because, it's not like you have a room full of writers who are writing these nonfiction or these fictional stories that they come from somewhere. They come from real life.
Yeah, so, what we do have is a really awesome team of people who work on these videos and, a group of parents that have come together at BuzzFeed that like really all care about telling the truth about parenting. That's sort of like our motto is like, let's just be real. We're not experts. We're in it with you. We're just trying to figure it out the same way that you are. And, and then we also have the internet. We have this amazing resource of the internet where people want to share their stories with us. So, we end up hearing from people who feel that they're a hot mess or the PTA mom or whatever. And, it's sort of like this fun feedback loop where we get to see what the audience wants and respond to it.
Right. It's so instant, How do you think being a parent or a mother has changed? Think back to when you were born and raised. And I mean, Kim and I were both born in the 70s and, you were likely the 80s.
I'm an 80s baby.
Yeah. So, but I don't remember hearing any moms like talking to each other about who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. And they kind of accepted this is what my life is and these are what the challenges are and I'm just going to do it.
I mean, my mom, I would still say had her together. I still sort of am like, Mom, can you remind me to do this? And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe they were so together that we never had to be. But I don't think that there was a real honest conversation about parenting or even womanhood until probably the late 90s, early off. I mean, are we allowed to talk pop culture for a second?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so I'm looking at The People versus O.J. Simpson, right? I'm obsessed with this show. It's so good. And so campy and so weird, and the tone of it is so weird, and I love it. But Marcia Clark is someone that I saw as a bumbling fool growing up because I watched the O.J. trials as, like, a tween in Los Angeles, and they felt like they were doing everything wrong. And when I watch the show, I feel like she is a feminist hero. Like, this is a woman who had 2 kids, who was on her own, who was working so hard in, like, a world where nobody had sympathy for, working parents, let alone working moms. I mean, the scene with Johnny Cochran sort of, like, calling her out for trying to, be there for her children is jaw-dropping because I think we've come a long way from there. I don't think that would happen in 2016. But you look at, just 1994, women were being pooped all over.
It's funny that you say that. It does happen in 2016. I mean, there are a lot of industries, where I've worked for projects that had, the words mom or parent or, anything else that clearly were about parenting and raising kids and still had absolutely no balance or understanding, compassion. There are a lot of industries out there that don't necessarily value any parent, a mom or a dad, having an outside life. And, it's great that you're working among other parents and this is the stuff you're doing because it's clear.
You're right. I'm very privileged because I work in a world where parenting comes first. Where like to all of us at Punchy parents, we're parents. So
I also think though
we're
that
always cool with that.
I also think though that the internet and social media has allowed people to talk about these things in a way that maybe they were talking about before, but there was no way to know because we were all just in our little kitchens. When I was growing up and
drinking Sanka,
but or Bartles and James, right? So, but I think that people did have these feelings, but there was no way to let it out. I mean, you had Phil Donahue, Oprah, and Sally Jesse Raphael talking about, and that was it.
Right.
I mean, I just pulled way back. Yeah.
Totally.
Right back to Sally Jesse.
Kind of platform that we have today, right?
Yeah, and so
about things.
Right. And I think that's what's changed the conversation about it. People feel more empowered to have conversations and be more honest about it. But I also think what comes with that is all of the judgment and the criticism and the ridicule too. So it's a risky move to be able to talk about being a hot mess. Like, I don't think I would refer to myself as a hot mess. Like, I'm just making my way. When I think of a hot mess, I think of something really negative, and I don't, and so I'm thinking about your video, thinking that you should change it to like HAWT, like.
See, I think a hot mess is like, she may be a mess, but she's someone really attractive. That's why I can't call
myself. That's why I'm saying HAWT, or like, remember like we used to say fat with a PH?
Yes.
Like. Because I think that when we, when you see someone like drunk stumbling over with her, underwear coming out of her skirt, you say, oh, that girl's a hot mess.
Right,
I don't really equate that to someone who's pulling it together, by every string of their shirt to get their kids to school, even with messy hair,
Right. Well, Kim's always seeing the positive,
I think the next thing that we need to explore is like how the hot mess mom is actually a great mom. We've kind of played with stereotype a little bit and people respond to it and I think, the next thing is that, like, this woman's actually getting it done. She's showing up. She's there.
Right. Right. I would like I'd like to do a video with you where we teach other moms how to say no.
Oh, my God, right? It's the hardest thing. I mean, moms have to be perfect and say yes all the time. What is that?
Yeah, I think, I can only speak for myself, and by the time my third kid showed up, I no longer feel the need to say yes.
Yeah, I stopped apologizing for my no. Like, would you like to do XYZ? No, thank you. And they look at me waiting for me to give some explanation and defensive reason why. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Goodbye. And I just walk away. And people are like, what?
Yeah, but if we do it for BuzzFeed, we'll have to come up with a lot of different ways to say no without saying no. And, in very colorful language.
That's a really good idea. Let me get back to you on that next week.
All right. I've got lots where that came from, Morgan. So Morgan Shanahan, senior editor from BuzzFeed, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. And anything coming up around the corner that you can give us a little tease?
Oh my God, I don't know. We are having so much fun making parenting videos. I don't even want to point to one. I want to point to one thing as the exciting thing that we're doing, because I think everything we're doing is so exciting. So just follow BuzzFeed Parents and BuzzFeed Video and check us out and tell us what you want to see, and we're here for all of it.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
You can find me on all social media as @the818. You can also find me at the818.com, which is my pretty neglected personal website. And of course you can find me at BuzzFeed Parents, which is buzzfeed.com/Morgan Shanahan or buzzfeed.com/parents.
And for those of us with ADD, we'll have all of that on our Broadscast website.
Exactly. we'll list all of it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Morgan. Great talking with you.
You too, you guys. So fun. My pleasure.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. And we will be right back after this.
Hi, this is the Monkey. My parents run the best social media company around. Go to starksocial.com today.
Welcome back to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. We have a special guest on the line today, Marc Fucuriel, one of the Boston Marathon victims who is kicking butt and showing up this Monday at the Boston Marathon to hand cycle the race. Marc, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Yeah, I sound like a stalker, but I've been following you for the past 3 years. I mentioned earlier in the show, like I used to waitress with your mom.
At the 99?
At the 99, exactly. And I know your sister, and we've hung out a couple times. Like, so we have that family connection. So when that day was happening, and we were kind of trying to find out, because I had a brother at there, and I had a sister-in-law running the race, and so it was, everybody was glued to Facebook, and to hear what was happening with you was just tragic, and I can't imagine what you've been through and what your family has been through. I mean, can you take us back a little bit to that day, and do you remember a lot of it?
Yeah, I remember the majority of it when I was actually conscious. Yeah, I remember pretty much most of it.
And go on. Sorry.
Go ahead. Okay. No, I went there to support a friend of mine that was running for soldiers that he had lost in Afghanistan and Iraq. Mike Jefferson, I got the phone call the night before from a friend of mine, JP, who actually lost his leg too, and his brother Paul. They called me and they said, we're going to go support him. Do you want to come? I said, yep. Let me just get a few things done in the morning, and if I can get them done, I'll definitely go. And I got the things done in the morning. It was a beautiful day, kind of like today right now out here. And I went in, and we got to the place we got to and stopped and watching the race, and the rest is history.
And you heard the first bomb go off, and I was reading, we're watching that, never expecting, of course, another one to hit.
No, I didn't. Little did I know, it was right behind me at the bottom of my right ankle. And he was looking over my shoulder for 4.5 minutes when I watched the video from the FBI. And, first one went off, watched it. It was huge. And then next thing you know, I was looking up at the sky. So
wow.
I knew they got me.
Wow. And the thing is, we could sit here and talk about them, but I refuse to even give them a second, because, to watch the community pull together in Boston and, and support. I mean, I think that I mentioned earlier in the show, like, I think people think this happened and people lost a leg, and then, because the media will then show, like the one woman dancing again and another person doing, which is amazing. I mean, stories of resilience and strength, but I don't think people realize the day-to-day suffering that you still go through.
Yeah, I just moved back home a little less than a month ago from Walter Reed Medical Facility. I was living down in D.C. away from my son for a year. I came back an awful lot to visit him. Came back pretty much almost every weekend or every other weekend to visit him, and he came down over the summer, and spent the week with me down there. And I'm still going through surgery, still going through things, and 6 to 8 weeks don't have a leg in a wheelchair, do the recovery, and then start to build up again to the muscles. And it takes months, and I'll be off for months, back on for months. Jessica Kempsky is another survivor still going through surgery. She actually just went through one like a week ago.
Right, and so
so she's back out of her legs. She's been in and out of her legs for 3 years too.
Wow. I mean, 3 years later, and it's like I said, I think it's really important to tell the stories because, I mean, you're still getting up every morning. You're still fighting. You are still a huge, role model for your son to see that you don't give up. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of days that you feel like giving up or that you just can't do it. But I also think it's important for people to understand how long term the ramifications are of this act. And
I'll be continuing through surgeries for possibly for the rest of my life to fix the HO, the growth on my right leg that comes underneath the skin with a stump, the bottom of the leg. So I call it the stump. It's not politically correct, but I call my leg whatever I want to call it. I'm not talking to anyone else.
Yep.
So, the bottom of my stump, the actual bone grows like bone spurs, and then they need to go in, clean that up, then restitch it, close you back up, and you're off your leg for 6 to 8 weeks again. So I've already done the called revisions. I've already done like 4 or 5 of those.
Wow.
So in the last 3 years. So I mean, it's it's been pretty crazy, and I'm going to probably have to deal with that for the rest of my life. And then my left leg, as of right now, I'm still keeping it, but it's in a lot of pain. I have a special custom brace that's just got patented by a prosthetist down in Walter Reed. So the only person in the world that can make it is that guy.
Wow.
So as of right now, I mean, I've been blessed with all the help from everybody up there, and all those guys down at Walter Reed, and so many have been so generous and kind to me, and it helps that that's what keeps you motivated and going every day. I mean, as far as long term, I'll be dealing with this for the rest of my life, 100%. In pain, exhausted, you get tired easier. An 8-hour day to me is probably like a 12 to 14-hour day for anyone else.
Right, right. At least I'm sure. But yet it's not stopping you. Excuse me. You are actually showing up on Monday at the marathon with a bike donated by the Semper Fi Fund. Now they don't usually, donate to people who aren't in the military. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, the Semper Fi Fund is actually for Marines and their families, but they've grown so big, and they wanted to be able to help others. They actually opened up what they call the Americas Fund. Now, the Americas Fund is for other branches of the military and their families, and they've also extended it to people like involved to think of. From what I understand of it, I could be wrong, but anyone that suffered a tragic from terrorists.
Okay.
So.
And so you are riding this hand cycle in support of America's Fund, Semper Fi Fund, and also the Achilles Freedom Team.
Correct. Yes, they're amazing organizations. I've witnessed firsthand the help that they've given many people outside of the military and their family. All of them, like I said, Semper Fi Fund, those guys, DJ Gainham, Gabe, Bobby, and so many more, but I just can't remember all their names. They got together, they came up, they were by our bedsides when I was in ICU, talking to our families, and they all come walking in with shorts or jeans on, none of them, missing legs. I mean, they're all of them were missing legs or something, And they came and they showed our family, this is what we do, this is how we are, they're going to be fine, we're going to be here to help them. Anything you guys need or want questions answered to, we're here for you. I mean, these are guys that just said, this happened, there's amputees, we got to be up there, we got to get there, we got to tell these people that life's going to be fine. And they did, and it was like, and then they pretty much kept in touch with all of us, check on us, invite us, include us and everything. They've been great opening their arms to us.
That's amazing. I mean, how do you think it's been different, waking up and it's got to feel lonely that you're the only one going through this, and then you meet other people who've been through maybe different experiences, but who suffer some of the same, long-term effects or emotional, we could talk about the physical stuff, but post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, all of that, like to meet people who maybe understand you a little bit. What has that done for you?
I mean, that's a huge motivation, It's a huge motivation to see what these guys do in their conditions. I mean, there's people always worse off than you know what I mean? And I've seen people a lot worse off than I am, and I see their motivation, I see their drive, and all that does is push me, and that's what we all pretty much do. We try to just push each other,
Yeah.
motivate each other.
Right.
So it's an amazing thing.
So what's going through your head as you, show up Monday at the starting line?
I won't realize it until I get there, and I'm like, because I really haven't thought about too much of it. I've been quite busy. I haven't even, the reality of what I'm about to do hasn't even set in yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, I can't even imagine, a very emotional experience. And, like I said, I've just been following, and one of the messages that you give in the media that I love is, you're real. You're just, you struggle and you share the struggles, and you have triumphs and you share the triumphs, but it's, every day of the journey's got to be a little bit different from the day before. And I really have a lot of respect for how honest and raw you can be when you talk about it,
Yeah, I'm very well known for that.
Well, I grew up in Woburn, so I kind of know that in a Boston guy anyway,
Yeah, exactly.
So I just, I'm definitely going to be glued to the TV out here, or at least the internet from California, and rooting you on. And, we had a woman on earlier, Jamie Marcet, who's had, she's a double amputee from a totally different experience, but she's running in support of you and all the victims, and I think at this point, I don't even want to call you guys victims anymore, because you're heroes. I mean, just to wake up every day and keep going already makes you a hero, but to go back and to let people know that this isn't going to end you, I just have huge respect for you, Marc.
Thank you.
And give my best to your family, and thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
All right, Marc Fucuriel. I just, I'm in awe of the strength. Yeah, it's go to broadscast.com to support Marc and Jamie and all the others running on Monday, and we'll be right back. Why should you become a Broadscast sponsor? Broad multimedia exposure, including radio, web, iTunes, YouTube, and social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
A quick, easy way to reach your target demo, women. Exclusive, limited time only, affordable introductory rates.
Plus 20 years experience in on-air and online marketing. We produce your one-of-a-kind creative in-house, saving you time and money.
For more on becoming a Broadscast sponsor, visit broadscast.com today.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall, the most riveting hour of anything you've ever heard.
Welcome back to Broadscast. I just want to thank our guests. Kim is now off to another interview, but I just want to thank our guests today. Jamie Marcet, good luck on Monday. Marc Fucuriel, same thing. I mean, like I said, head over to broadscast.com for all the information to be able to support their causes, learn more about them, and of course, the comic relief of Morgan Shanahan, senior editor of BuzzFeed. It was a great show, and we're looking forward to lots more with Morgan in the coming weeks. But also, don't forget to follow us, Facebook, Twitter at Broadscast Show, and Instagram, as well as You can find Witch Cities all over the country. You can find us on radio as well as iTunes and now iHeartRadio website and app. So that's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.